On today's episode, I had the immense pleasure to bring on Sola, who I just happened to connect with at the perfect time in my own journey. And we've luckily been able to capture that magic on this episode. So, for a little background, Sola is the visionary founder of the personal development empire, the Queen Path, and is revered by some of the most influential women and multi-million dollar brands across the realms of fashion, culture, and entrepreneurship. Driven by a prophetic passion to empower women to illuminate their brilliance and thrive from their purpose, she is more than a transformational coach, but an embodiment of wisdom. She's extremely passionate about being in service to others, which has been recognized in outlets like Vogue and Forbes 30 Under 30. And in this conversation, we go through a multitude of things that I know will basically cover all of your burning questions on how to embrace your queenly energy and kind of build that queendom that you're looking for. I hope you guys enjoy the episode as much as I did with Sola actually filming it. So let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome to Corporate Quitter. Today's guest is someone that I actually spoke about a couple episodes ago. So a few solo episodes ago, I talked about the problem with boss babe culture and this kind of rise of princess syndrome and kind of everyone's recognizing, oh, there's princess programming and it's not cute anymore and we want to be empowered women and things like that. And so I did a deep dive on that. And Sola, who I'm joined with thankfully today, was one of the people who had really inspired me to take a closer look at how I was showing up in the world, both personally and in my business. And so I'm so grateful that she's on today to share everything she knows about what it actually means to be a queen and how to show up in the world as a queen so you can attract abundance in all forms. So, Sola, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about our chat today. Let's get into it.
It's so cool because Sola and I, we had this like weird universal connection moment where like I saw her online and she saw me online and we were like, yo, we need to get to know each other. And then the stars aligned.
100%. I love when life just syncs it up for you. It just like kind of
Yeah.
gives you the alley oop and you dunk it. But
Yeah.
yeah, like literally, it was like, I think I posted a video and like on Instagram when like, I think if you have a verified account or whatever, it like shows a person's name. And I remember just seeing your name and I was like, I took a mental note and I was like, I'm going to reach out to this person because she represents the audience that I'm trying to understand a lot more, which is like the corporate queens, but we're gonna get into that today. But I'm so excited that the stars aligned for us for sure.
And it's so funny too, because that one video that you had posted like completely shifted my perspective on queen energy, honestly. So I've
Yeah.
had a lot of, I would say, like not trauma, but I've had a lot of resistance to the phrase queen because to me, I'm like, yes, queen, slay queen. Like it's very much like that sort of energy or the queenly energy of it being so intense where it's like the boss babes who are like, I don't take any shit. I don't need no man. Like it's very like, it's not, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's like to the point where it's like, I don't know. It's not approachable. So to me, when I heard queen and you framing it as the way that you do, I was like, that to me sounds attractive. That to me sounds like someone who's in their power, but loves men, right? Loves that person, people of all
Yeah.
genders and types. They are completely in flow. They are doing what they love. Like it was less of like a fad and a facade and like I have to kind of white knuckle life and more of a like, hey, let's be open and carefree. So I like love, and that's why I have you on today is to describe and
I
help
love it.
people and share like sharing that you can still be a queen and be soft and mushy and
A
loving and all of
thousand
that.
percent. 1,000%. I think I felt the same way when I first got led by God to create what it is that I've created. Like the word queen intimidated me because I
Mhm.
felt the same way. I was like, does that mean like I'm a boss babe? Like
Yeah.
what does that mean? But I think a lot of women who are deep into their princess programming will definitely feel a resistance towards queen because queen is something that you have to step into.
Yeah.
And it is a maturing of the princess living inside of you, and I think a lot of us are resistant to that maturity because we believe that to be queen means that we need to completely let go of our playfulness or completely
Mhm.
let go of our feminine flow state, but what it really is like, what does it look like to be in the maturation, the mastery, the realm of devotion of who you were created to be, and that's what queen really is. It's just like the evolved version of your personal, like, uniqueness.
Yeah. The other thing with queen
Yeah.
that kind of scared me a little bit, or not scared me,
Mhm.
but like turned me off from it is that like I'm a very small individual. I'm 4'11". I love falling into the cutesy sort of like I love to be nurtured and coddled by like the boyfriends that I'm with and like I don't know. I just
Mhm.
fall into the cutesy energy very easily. And like to me, for whatever reason, I translated that as like, oh, that's what a princess is versus a queen. So I could never be a queen, which is so ridiculous because it doesn't boil down to your physical attributes at all, or even that youthful sort of energetic kind of viewpoint on things. It's just more so like
taking responsibility for who you want to be and showing up in the world in that way. Whichever, whether
a
you're sexy, cute,
1000%.
beautiful, strong, like soft, like it literally doesn't matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think even when we think about the word like maturity, right?
It
I think
sounds
we
so gross,
automatic
honestly. Like, I mean, a little bit
I
makes
g
more gross.
I I get it, I get it, but we've been programmed to feel that way as women because
Yeah.
there's a multi-billion dollar industry centered around beauty that is like the resistance of maturity. We
Yeah.
don't wanna mature in our skin, we don't wanna mature in getting older, so that word has been hardwired into our brains to be like ick, you know? But if you're on any kind of path, a path of purpose, a path of service, you maturing doesn't mean like it doesn't equate to you getting older. You maturing equates to you evolving in something. And I feel like if you're not evolving in something, you're staying stuck and you're not really walking into all of the blessings that are connected to you leveling up and you maturing and you evolving. Does it make sense?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like the future belongs to those who are not afraid to master. And when I think about the queen, I think about it as a woman who is on the path towards mastering what she's been created for. And we all have different purposes, different things that we've been created for, you know?
Yeah, I love that framing of that. And since we're on the
Yeah.
topic of creating within our archetypes, can you explain?
Yes.
There's four queen archetypes, right? There's four basically embodiments of who you are as a
Yeah.
queen.
100%. So my background is like I'm actually a spoken word poet, and as poets, we like to study the world. We're very, very theatrical, dramatic people. And I went through this season of my life where I just studied like hundreds of women because I've been coaching for about 6 years now. And I'm like, I'm studying all of these women, and I just kept noticing these four archetypes. Like it just kept coming up. And I was like, why are these four archetypes? And so, do you want me to get into what these queen archetypes
Yes.
are?
Oh my God. Yes. Please get into all of them. Her and I have the
Awesome.
same queen archetype, but we definitely need,
Yes.
especially the corporate queens out there. We gotta get into all of them.
Oh, yes, I love it, I love it. So, I'm a queen of streams, and this is the first archetype that I created, and I kinda created this archetypes even to understand myself, but the queen of streams, the synonymous element is water. We are here to be the creative visionaries. We are here to we're definitely on a wealth path, whether we realize it or not. We have the ability to create jobs. We have the ability to influence culture. Water is our associated element in the princess state. It can look like a lot of like going with the flow and no sense of direction. But in the queen state, we understand that we're here to, build masculine structures so we can be in our feminine flow. So this is the queen of streams archetype. Definitely a lot of entrepreneurs have this archetype. An example could be, I think one of the best versions of the queen of streams, honestly, is like, I know a lot of people are not a fan of her, but Kim
I
Kardashian,
was
she
gonna
definitely,
say, like, she's 100% a queen of streams. Like, she
she
does it
is,
all.
she does it all. And you can tell that she has like a structure that allows her to be in that flow.
Mhm.
She definitely looks like she's in a flow of something, whether that flow is content creation, but she's definitely in a flow. But but her and Paris Hilton, they're great examples of Queen of Streams archetypes. So that's the first OG foundation of the archetype. That's what I am. And that's how I created the Queen Path. The second archetype we have here, this is I think the second most common archetype is the People's Queen. Oh, do I love the People's Queen. The People's Queen, the associated element is air. They're definitely the ones who are here to be representative figures and voices to certain ideas. They have like, I call them like the lighthouses. Think of like Oprah, Amal Clooney, even like someone like Zendaya is like a great example of a People's Queen. And these people are definitely the kind of people who are like representatives. They're like representatives, right? They go out in the world, and when people look at them, they represent an idea, a concept, an idea, or they represent something for someone else. Like think of someone like Amal Clooney. She works in the world of like law and justice and all of that. She goes out there and she represents her client. She goes out there and she represents the voices of the people who are unspoken. So these are definitely people who have like that social justice
Mhm.
activism living inside of them. And they probably grew up feeling that from like a young age. And so when they're in their princess state, they can definitely be way too much in the realm of vanity, caring too much about how people are perceiving them, what people think, because everything is really connected to their image. But when they're in their queen state, like these are the women who can be in politics, they can be in government, they can master communication, they can have major, major impact and influence in their desired industries. So that would be the people's queen. Should we keep flowing?
Oh, for sure. I'm loving this. I'm learning even more. I've dived into all these just to
Yeah,
see like,
yeah.
oh, like where because I feel like people can flow. I mean, well, maybe you tell me. Everyone has their set archetype, but I'm sure there are
Oh,
instances
yeah.
where you can kind of
Oh,
find like
yeah.
little light
There's
points within the
there's
others.
definitely there's definitely gonna be we'll talk about this in a little bit. You'll definitely have seasons where you're like, "I'm in the Queen of Streams season," or "I'm in the People's Queen season," but there's definitely one dominant archetype that you have. Our next archetype, which is the 3rd most common archetype, is the Queen of Sanctuaries. Their associated element is Earth, and they are known as the empowered nurturer. So
Oh,
these are the women who
I
are
love
I know
that. The
I know.
mommies.
I know. I love them. I did like a master class with them I think like a month ago, and they're just like the sweetest. Like I just want to like protect them. These are the women who they don't necessarily have a lot of career ambitions. They definitely feel a call towards being homemakers, mothers, housewives. They see their career identity comes from what they can discover from their passions at being at home. So there's a lot of influencers. I feel like there's a rise of this kind of influencer that's happening right now, but I think like a public example that we can think of do you know who Dakota Johnson is? She
Oh, yeah. I thought well,
yeah,
she's the actress though, right? Isn't she?
yeah,
The 50
yeah,
Shades of Grey chick or whatever?
yes. So she would actually be an example of a queen of sanctuaries because if you study her, I've studied a lot of different women who have this archetype. The queen of sanctuaries is here to play the long-term game, meaning like they can master one thing. They're here to
Mhm.
really master one thing. Even though they can do a bunch of things like the queen of streams, like Dakota Johnson is definitely like acting, right? But at her core element, she's like a homebody, nature, wants to be like cozied up and like with her love. Like she has that kind of personality. A lot of people don't know that about her. But this is like a huge aspect of the queen of sanctuary. So they can have careers, but their career is, like, about them playing the long-term game. They don't really desire to have, like, businesses doing a bunch of different things. They'd rather just, like, find what they're passionate about and, like, focus on that one thing.
Is like Nara Smith a good example of that then? That TikToker who like does all the
Yes,
home baking? Okay, so okay.
100%.
Okay.
She's, like, the example. She's, like, the key example of that. But there's definitely women who can have this archetype and have careers for sure. But in their princess state, they're gonna try to embody water, which is not their called element. They are really here to get grounded and, like, focus on, like, that one thing. So they're here to really master intentional focus, right? Which is what
Mhm.
makes them such incredible nurturers. In order to be a great nurturer, you have to be able to focus on what's in front of you, focus on your baby, focus on your husband, all the things. And so that's what they're here to master long term. A lot of these women actually like they think they're supposed to be queen of streams because they're creative, because this archetype is also very creative. But them having too much go with the flow, too much watery is going to just take them out. It's not going to be sustainable for
Interesting.
them. They need like queen of streams, we can manage kind of being up in the air and things kind of like going all over the place. We have a little bit more of a capacity to handle things like that. This archetype definitely needs to be grounded. They definitely need to be rooted in order for them to master their queen state.
Does that also
So
apply to like I would even say like mental or like even financial stability? Like they can't move forward
a
unless they
thousand
have that
percent.
sort of security. Whereas Queen of Streams, like obviously when you're in your flow state, you're abundant in all forms, but like I
Yeah.
know I can operate under extreme stress within finances, mental health, things like that. Though not ideal, but it is possible.
Yeah, 100%. And most Queen of Streams can master that because the Queen of Streams archetype is really birthed out of like the hunger for freedom. You're like, I'm gonna get it. Like, so where it's like a by any means necessary kind of
Oh,
energy. You know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Am I speaking to you? So
Yes.
the Queen of Sanctuaries for their particular archetype, it's really not good for them to be in that state. They don't have like the capacity like we have. You know what I mean? So even like that Instagram, that social, what's her name? The girl that
Nara
you
Smith.
mentioned? Yeah, even for her, she had to kind of be in, like, a more rooted, grounded home life kinda place before her career really blew up. Does
Hmm.
it make sense?
Totally.
So,
Totally.
a queen of streams could be out here in 10 different locations, and it's all just, like, working, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But that archetype in particular, they need to get rooted in yes, it's mentally rooted. They tend to dissociate a lot. They tend to be in the realm of daydreaming. They're very dreamy archetypes. But I really think if they master intentional focus financially long term, that's what's gonna allow them to prosper. Like, why I gave the example of Dakota Johnson, she mastered acting. I'm pretty sure she's good at 10,000 different things. But it was, like, acting in particular, she, like, gave herself to that, and she was able to prosper from that one thing.
Yeah. And then the
Yeah.
final archetype, which is probably
Yeah.
a lot of the listeners who are on, for
Mhm.
corporate quitter, is the corporate,
Yes.
what is it? The corporate queens, that's what they're called.
Yes. Yes. So the corporate queen, oh my gosh, I this is the archetype I'm the most excited at this time period to like even study more and examine more. But the corporate queen, their associated element is fire, right? And they are known as the ladies of leadership. I think a lot of people, when they hear corporate queen, they make this assumption that these women have to work in corporate, but that's actually not true. Emma Greed, who's the co-founder of Skins and Good American, she's like the kind of like part of the mastermind behind like the Kim Kardashian empires that are being built. She came from the world of corporate, right? And so these corporate queens, they're the ladies of leadership. They can easily go into entrepreneurship because they are able to take the leadership of their own lives, right? Even though they're programmed to do that for other people, if they were to reconnect that and do it for themselves, they can definitely prosper in the world of entrepreneurship. So they're not limited to be in the corporate space. They have the ability to bring warmth to cold environments. It's a super feminine archetype. I think when we also think corporate, we think masculine, which is
Super
so not.
masculine and aggressive and assertive and like cold and cut
It's
off.
I think I feel like there's so much confusion in the femininity spaces. It's just like people make this as
It's bad. We're
it's
gonna get into it
that's
in a second, but
that's why yeah, it's that's why I kind of got out of it. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second, but yes, being a corporate queen does not mean you're masculine. Working a job does not make you masculine, right? There's this misconception that we have if you are in a 9 to 5, then you are automatically like a masculine, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And there's negative associations with that. What I'm here to tell you to the corporate queens who are listening to this, there is nothing more feminine than being actually decisive. And one
Yes.
thing you know how to do being in the corporate space is that you have to make decisions quickly, right? And even like what we teach on the Queen Path, it's discovery, decision, then it's devotion, right? That's actually like a feminine thing to decide because being decisive means that you trust yourself, you trust your judgment. You're
Yep.
not afraid to like take action. And I think there's a lot of misprogramming in the femininity space of like, I'm just gonna like let him decide and da, 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 and I'm like, hit me up in 25 years and tell me where you're at, right? But the corporate queens have mastered being super decisive because they have to be, because their
Yep.
whole company depends on them being decisive. And so they can easily bring that into entrepreneurship. But when they're in their princess state, when they're not really cultivating their queen state, they don't know how to do that for themselves,
Mhm.
right? They are just like yes men. They just follow the agenda. They follow the rule. They can't critically think for themselves. They're very dependent on systems that are no longer serving them. And so when they can cultivate a system in their own life that can serve them, they can move into their queen state. So it requires them to kind of burn down what isn't working, which I think a lot of corporate queens have a fear to do. But if they do that, they're going to easily shift into their queen state. If you don't like what it's looking like, burn it down. Burn it down. You have that power inside of you and igniting a path forward for yourself and for others to follow.
I mean, easier said than done, but yes, it is possible. And
It is
it's
possible.
it's so interesting as you're discussing all the archetypes. Like I could almost see my 3-4 years that I've been out of corporate kind of embodying each of those queen archetypes. Like I feel like I've literally
Yes.
had every single aspect at some point in my life. And now because of where I'm at, obviously queen of streams makes sense because I'm building a business that has multiple streams. But like when
Yeah.
I first started all this, I was definitely in my corporate sort of queenie energy where I like couldn't make decisions and like I don't know, everything was hard and I was still relying on men to an extent. Like I don't know. It stinks when you're in your princess, like your princess state, when you're in your princess programming and you feel like you're not in control of your life. It really
Yeah.
does.
100%, 100%. But I even like in the beginning of this conversation, that resistance to queen, but can you see how healthy it is to be in your queen state in environments like corporate?
Yeah.
To be like decisive and to not feel like you are dependent on a system or even dependent on the men in that system. It's actually like a super feminine and empowering thing. And it even translates like great into relationships, you know? I feel like the programming when it comes to love, you're in a relationship, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like the programming when it comes to love is that in order to get a man to like us, we have to be in our princessy,
Oh my god.
you
Well,
know.
you will get a man in your life, but it might not be the right man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's funny now. I'm in the probably the healthiest relationship I've been in to the point that I
So
actually live
good.
with him. We only met 3
Aw.
months. No, we met in October of last year. So within
Yeah.
3 months of us dating, we moved in together, which is a pretty
Aw.
fast thing. And
Yeah.
I'm not resistant, but I'm super independent, much like
Yes.
you probably are too. And so for years, I was just, surrounded by men who either wouldn't, not that they weren't providers, but I was basically, they were also entrapping me and keeping me in the princess state because that's where they wanted me to be, whether they knew it or not. So it's cool to see a
100%.
flip of, like, I had to make the decision of, like, no, I don't wanna be a princess anymore, but I wanna be playful and silly, and then actually
Yeah.
find a partner who's willing to support me on my queenly journey. Like, and
A
he even
hundred
calls me, he's like,
percent.
"Yes, queen, go." I mean, he does it in that way because he's funny, he's a comedian, but, it's so cool once you can switch that kind
A
of
100%.
yeah.
100%. And, like, the beautiful thing is, like, the princess doesn't have to die, right? I think there's
Mhm.
a misconception that it's about killing the princess. It's like, no, the queen is just the evolution of the princess. The queen is the princess still, but she's just evolved. She's just matured. She's just in the realm of devotion. That's the only difference. And so it's not about, assassinating the princess within, but examining all of the toxic patterns that is connected to the princess that are no longer serving you, and understanding that in order for you to get to your next level, you have to sacrifice some of those habits, mindsets, or whatever it may be in order for you to step into your queen state and really like reign over your life and rule over your life. Like that's what it's really about. It's not about trying to rule over a bunch of people or trying to like command all of this attention. Like, wouldn't you want to rule over your life? Wouldn't you want to rule over money? Wouldn't you want to rule over things that you feel like have dominion over you? And I think that's the power of the queen. She can rule over the things that once enslaved her.
Yeah. I do want to get into the
Yeah.
conversation around relationships a little bit just because it
Oh,
is such a
yeah,
pain
yeah.
point, especially
Oh, yeah.
for corporate women specifically, but just
Yes.
women in general are, I would say, are having a tough time with relationships. And also talking about the difference between like masculine energy, queen energy. Like there's a lot of confusion between that. And I think that's also a big part of why it's harming dating and relationships. So can you talk a little bit about the differences between basically masculine and feminine energy, its relation to queen energy, and then maybe dating and how all of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the queen is the epitome of the feminine, in my personal opinion, because I feel like I've been like, my original business was actually called The Feminine Frequency, and this was, like I started, like, maybe, like, 6 years ago, like, that was my original kind of vision, so I'm a bit of a OG in this space. It's a very new thing that a lot of people are talking about, and a lot of people don't fully understand it. They're just kind of repeating what everybody else is saying.
Hmm.
But I, like, really studied it from not just, like, an energetic perspective, but, like, I studied it by studying relationships, all of these different kinds of relationships. And essentially, the feminine is, in its essence, is the receiver, and
Hmm.
the masculine is the giver, right?
Yeah.
And when that doesn't mean like the feminine does not give anything, but when she receives, she can give. When she receives, she can give. So she's not giving from a place of emptiness. And I think that's when you know you're in your masculine, is when you are constantly pouring, 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 giving, 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 and you feel like you're giving from a place of emptiness. You know what I mean? Even when
Yeah.
we look at man and woman at our original essence, like men carry the seed, like they got the seeds in them. And like we are the receiver of the seeds. And so that's our natural state of being. If we were to simplify the masculine and feminine, it's like the feminine is in a state of receptivity. And so when you think about like your queen energy, it's like you're in a state of receiving. You're in the state of receiving. And that doesn't mean like you're out here just like waiting for guys to like buy you cards and
I
all of
was
that
gonna say it
stuff.
sounds a little sprinkly to me, but
I know.
I think there are there's
Yeah, and
confusion about that though. Like people
yeah,
think like, oh, I'm not gonna lift a finger, like I am a queen, I love
yeah,
the queen energy in the sense of how you describe it, but I
yes.
think people confuse it with like not domination, but like almost like women are better and men are here to serve as a slave,
Not at
which is
all,
not the
not at
way it's
all.
supposed to be.
Because when you think about a king and a queen archetype, they're partners. There's
Yeah.
true partnerships. They complement each other, right? Yes, a king could provide, protection, resources, and all of that stuff, but a queen can inspire vision. She can inspire things. She can inspire movement. She can bring forth, perspective because she's always receiving the world. She's always in the state of observing the world, feeling her environment. She's always receiving, whether she realizes it or not. And that doesn't just go into like material
Yeah,
receiving.
like dollars and purses and
Yeah,
fancy
yeah.
dinners.
If that's your vibe, that's your vibe. There's no I don't shame anybody's
No,
game,
we
right?
love receiving as women. Let me
Yes,
tell
we
you, we
love
love
it. We love it.
it.
I love it. I love it, right? But it's like, so what does this look like in dating? If you're in the early stages of dating a guy and you want to set the tone of the queen energy, again, this is a feminine thing. You're setting the tone of your boundaries, you're setting the
Mhm.
tone of what your standards are. Like you're respecting yourself. That's the power of being a queen. And we've been deceived by the false powers that be that respecting your boundaries and your standards is considered masculine.
Mhm.
So that's where the confusion is. When you're in your queen energy, it's not about like, oh, I'm not doing anything until he buys me a car or whatever. It's kind of like you're coming from a place of like, I truly have done the work within myself and I know the value and I also know what I'm here to give, right? I know what I'm here to give, but I also care and protect myself enough to just not be like pouring and giving and giving and giving
Yep.
all of these things without testing and seeing if the king that is in front of me is worthy for me to give my attention, my body, my energy, like my time to, you know? Like it's like a queen is in a state of observation. She's secure in herself. It does it make sense? And
For sure.
because she's secure in herself when she goes into the dating world, she's not dating from a place of like, I'm incomplete, I need someone to complete me. She's dating from a place of like, I respect men and I respect partnership and I'm looking for the best partner for me.
Yep.
That's the queen energy. So you're going to be a lot more decisive. You're going to be a lot more clear in your communication and your boundaries, but you're also going to be very clear on who you are and what you want out of life. Because if you're not clear on all of those things, you're probably most likely in your princess state and you're looking for a guy to tell you who you are and what he wants to give you out of life. Does it
Which is
make
the
sense?
scariest thing because then all of a sudden you
Yeah.
wind up years later in the passenger seat of a guy's vision and
So
you're
how
just like,
to
I love
how
you,
did I
but
get
this
here?
isn't, yeah. And like, I've had that many times where in the beginning of a relationship, it's great because I'm within self respect of myself. I respect my boundaries, my time. I'm working on myself. I'm going to the gym, doing all these things. Then all of a sudden, years later, here I am, like, not even a fraction of that who that person was. Like, I just like if
Thousand
he says
percent.
he wants to do this thing, like we just and like none of us do that intentionally, much like in our careers, right? With that, whichever queen archetype you're in and however you present your life, like we don't
Yeah.
intend to be like get away from our queenly state, but sometimes it happens.
100%, and if it happens, have compassion with yourself. It's part of the
Hmm.
programming of women. But I think it's I personally believe in, like, submission. I think that could be a triggering word for a lot of people, but I wouldn't submit to someone who didn't have a vision that I felt like I can trust in. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And I think what tends to happen to a lot of women who are dating in their princess state is that they have no vision for their lives, you know? So they're just looking for someone to, like, tell me what to do, tell me who I should become, and that's a very dangerous place to be. So a queen, the difference between, the queen and the princess is a queen really knows who she is. And when you know who you are, you're going to show up authentic. You're not going to show up playing a character. You're not going to be showing up trying to like, okay, I'm not going to do this unless you give me this and this and that. You're going to be in a state of like really knowing yourself. And the more you know yourself, you know that you are love. No
Hmm.
matter all of the things that you like, if when you know you've reached the pinnacle of like really knowing yourself when you can discover love within yourself. And when you're showing up on a date and you're embodying that love, you are also embodying boundaries and protection because love is not I think there's even a lot of misconceptions about what love is. We think like, "Oh yes, love just allows all kinds of BS and whatever." It's like, no, love is also connected with honor and respect,
Hmm.
you know? And so when you're embodying who you truly are, you know who you truly are, you're definitely going to be dating a lot differently.
Oh,
And you're
for
gonna be
sure.
attracting a lot differently as well.
Yeah. I in like getting into my queenly energy, I actually for a good year when I was in dating, like refused to like do anything physical, like intimately with anyone unless we were dating for a few months. Like I put that as a firm boundary because I was like, I
Yeah.
want to see who actually sticks around. And like
Yeah,
it's funny because things change very quickly when you set certain boundaries
very
like that.
quickly.
Or like, hey, I need to be in bed by 10 p.m. so I can get to the gym at 6. Like, sorry, I can't go to the bar with you. Like I mean, I for a whole year was
Yes.
pushing the edges of like what it meant to be in my boundaries and have certain things that I require. And like people they show exactly who they are, and like that's okay. There's nothing wrong with them, but like thank you, move on.
1,000%. 1,000%. And I love that you did that. I think a lot of women are afraid to be very clear on their boundaries or set these standards because they are afraid it's going to make them be seen as masculine.
Well,
And
unlovable
that,
too. Like that it's
yeah,
unsafe and you're not going to be accepted. Like it
oh,
I don't yeah.
100%. That as well. That as well. And so I think it's really important to, if anyone who's single is who's listening to this, like have a season where you have to take a step back and be like, okay, what are my standards for myself? Not even just like, oh, I want this and this and out of relationship, but like, am I gonna make sure that no matter what, I'm in bed by 10 so I can wake up early in the morning to go to like, that's you setting standards for yourself. So you were tapping into your queen state then. And then you're gonna attract, like you are now, like someone who really can honor and respect you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because honor and respect comes from being a person of your word. And if you're honoring your own word, then like you're just naturally gonna be more magnetic to people who can do the same as well.
Yeah. And I would think that, I mean, you tell me, but right when the more that you trust in yourself and more that you lean into the queen energy, I'm sure you become more magnetic to just like let's even say for Queen of Streams, right? Opportunities to like build this business or work with this client or like whatever it is. So I mean, can you talk a
A
little bit
hundred
about more of
percent.
that? About how like
Yeah.
yeah, just like how to evolve into your queenly state and kind of lean into
Yeah,
that
of
and knowing that
course.
you're still going to be safe. And yeah, I'm sure people are
Yeah.
curious. How do I do this? What do I do?
Yeah, yeah. So on the queen path, I teach we all go through these three different phases, right? And the phases is number one is discover, and then it's decision, and then it's devotion. Discover, decision, devotion. And so when you're kind of still in that princess state, you're in I encourage you to be in that state of self-discovery. Who am I? What do I like? What do I like to do? You're discovering things about yourself, you're discovering things about the world. But eventually what's going to take you out of princess to queen is that you have to start making decisions based on what you discovered. If you discovered like, "Oh my gosh, I'm eating really poorly," or, "Oh my gosh, I've been, like, really toxic in relationship," you've been discovering that for years. You've gone to therapy, did the coaches, you did the whole thing. Eventually, you have to make decisions, and I think what keeps a lot of people stuck in the princess state is so that they I say they like to stay stuck in the realm of self-discovery.
Mhm.
They're addicted to discovery. I wanna discover this and discover, discover, discover. Queens are decisive, right? Queens are decisive. So that's the beginning of you starting to get into the queen state. It's understanding that even when you think about in ancient times, like historical queens, they had to make choices and decisions like off with his head, what are the peasants eating? Like their life every day, like their number one responsibility besides their elaborate beauty treatments, which like love that,
Mhm.
was and outside of making appearances, was making decisions. Like that's one of the biggest responsibility for kings and queens to make choices.
Mhm.
And so it's like that's the beginning of you stepping into queen. You have to start being a lot more decisive and honoring. Like when you decide something, then you have to go into the realm of devotion. That's the final stage of that's how you really lock in with the queen state. So you were like, for example, you were like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start this business. Like you discovered some things. You went through the
Mhm.
exact phases of what I'm talking about. You were like, I'm assuming this is what you went through. I'm not sure, but you were like, I hate this or I'm done with this. You discovered like, this is actually going to destroy me. There were things that you discovered, right? But you would have stayed stuck in your princess state if you never made a decision based on what you discovered.
Yeah,
You know what
but
I'm saying?
the crazy thing is that it's taken this long to get to this place
Yeah,
of like true decisiveness. Because I would say I've flexed
100%.
my decision muscle quite a bit over the past
Yes.
3 years because you have to as a business owner. You don't have a boss to
Have
report to,
to.
none of that. But
Yeah.
now, like I just it baffles me that for 3 years of making really, really hard decisions, I
Yeah.
finally now can say I feel more like my queenly energy is showing up. Which
A
like it's
hundred
not a long
percent.
time, but it feels like the end of the world. It feels like I'm never gonna get there.
100%, 100%. And so that's why it's when you're in that self-discovery state, it's very important that you choose compassion and curiosity over judgment, right? It's like not looking at that season of your life when you're just like discovering all these things and you're not taking action. It's like get curious with yourself. Like, why am I not taking action on this? Why am I prolonging me making a decision even though I know A, B, and C and D? Because it's usually something stemmed from childhood. So it's very important that you're when you're on the what I call the queen path, you move with curiosity and compassion with yourself.
Mhm.
But when you enter into the realm of decisions, like it's a scary place to be. It's also a very powerful place to be because you know that your decisions can influence your whole entire world. Like, did you go through that when you were kind of transitioning out of corporate into what you do now in
Oh,
entrepreneurship? Like you
for
getting into
sure.
that realm of decisions?
Oh my God. And the other thing too is like when you're just starting a business or transitioning from corporate to basically being an entrepreneur, I call it that. Basically, there's a phase called the quitter hangover where you need to purge everything from that phase before into the entrepreneurial phase. Like you have to purge everything about yourself, everything about what you've thought before. It's a bit rocky. So in that kind of
Mhm.
phase, you're still like, how do I make decisions? Like you don't even know how to make decisions because there's no rule
No.
book, and even so,
100%.
like, all the decisions you make are could be life or death in the sense of, like, you make one bad financial decision, right? An investment in a coach or a program or something, and it doesn't work out, or even developing a product, and then you're like, "Well, now I have to go back to the very thing I escaped from." So it's super scary, and then you have all this judgment from people around you, especially men who are like, "Women you can't make decisions, and they're the worst at making," like, which is so funny because women are super intuitive, and we tend to make really great decisions, but now I'm entrusting in my decisions and I'm seeing the long term, basically, I'm seeing the long term effects of making decisions based on my own judgment. And even though it might have taken longer to see the kind of silver lining, that's paying off
Yeah.
tenfold of what if I had trusted in someone else.
100%, 100%. Even that's so true. I even say, like, when I show my artwork on these 3 different phases on the queen path and on the art courses and stuff, I always show that the dragon lives in if there's, like, an imaginary dragon that we all have, the imaginary dragon lives in between discovery and decision, right? Because usually a lot of us have trauma or painful memories connected to us making a decision that's brought us harm
Yep.
or connected to us making a decision and it didn't lead us to where we wanted, and we have a lot of shame around it. And because we have a lot of shame around it, we stay stuck in discovery,
Mhm.
right? And so it's very important that you make peace with your past decisions. Even when you're on the path of queen, you will have experiences where you make very poor decisions, and that's
I've
okay.
made terrible decisions. There's
And
decisions
that's
in life.
I never said that being a queen is just always making good decisions. It's just being decisive because when you're decisive, you're allowing yourself to not allow your external world to rule over you. You're
Mhm.
taking back, the throne. You're like, I'm not going to let reality rule over me. I'm not going to let this rule over me. So the practice of being decisive, it is a practice. And in that practice, you will fall on your face sometimes. You will make poor decisions. But what you're doing long term is building a muscle of trusting yourself and being on the queen path. You have to that's what it's all about. You have to build trust in yourself because the more you trust yourself, the more confident you're going to be, the more magnetic you're going to be, and the more you're going to be able to inspire people around you. And when you're not
Mhm.
really trusting of yourself, you're going to even make worse decisions, poor decisions. You're going to influence other people to make poor decisions. So the queen path is really a path of building up, like, what I say, like, the internal kingdom within. And there's gonna be a season where you're like, you feel like the building within, the temple within has fallen. You don't know what to do. You feel, like, defeated or whatever it may be. But if you have a history of building, of trying, of deciding, of going, you can go back and be like, "Oh, actually, last year I did this and that, and actually I can do it again." You're building evidence in your subconscious mind that you have the ability to do the things that you decide that you wanna do.
Yeah. And one of the things that
Yeah.
popped up as you were describing that is right. Well,
Yeah.
it's been coming up. It's like the more that you embrace your queen energy and that decisive sort of trusting in yourself energy, is the more that
Mhm.
you'll become magnetic, which means like more of like your star power and things like that. And one of the things that you most recently did, and I think you continually do on a quarterly basis, is talking about like the paid public figure, right? How to be a public
Mhm.
figure and embrace your star power, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean that you're an entertainer, but it's like embracing the thing that's
Yes.
naturally sparkly within you, your own version of that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I think so out of the 2 archetypes, definitely the people's queen and the queen of streams have, like, I'm a Christian, so we use words like anointing. These archetypes definitely have an anointing towards fame. And fame is essentially doesn't mean that you have to be on the red carpet and have people take your pictures when you go to Target or whatever. But fame is just having the ability to be recognized for doing something that you're good at, right? And some people are good at getting drunk and some people are good at getting doing drugs, and maybe that's what they're famous at, but it's just like you are a recognized figure in something. And so I think the more and more you move, you get clear on like, okay, I've discovered I love this. I love business. I love entrepreneurship. I want to make multiple streams of income. Great. I've discovered that I'm the queen of streams. Now you move into decision realm. Okay, I'm going to launch a business. I'm going to launch this business. Okay, I'm deciding when to launch this business. When you get into the final phase of the queen path, which is the realm of devotion, that's when you're all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what devotion is where the queens are at. Like, yes, you start to become queen in the realm of decisions, but it's not until you're in the final form of like, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
There's no option for me to not like, I'm all in. And that is the energy that attracts fame. Most people that we meet who are famous, public figures, whatever, they went all in on something. That's the reason why they're there. Think of like like who's some of your favorite actors?
Oh God, now you're putting me in the spot. I don't even know. Like, I mean, I just watched the Marvel movie last night. So let's say, what is it? Like the guy who plays Thor. I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, sure. The Thor dude. Yeah, the guy
Right?
with the hammer. Yeah, that. Yeah. I think that's, or is that
Yeah.
Captain America? I don't know. I'm not really good with these things, but either.
Okay, Chris. I'm pretty sure that's Chris Hemsworth. Yeah. So imagine if Chris Hemsworth only did acting 10% of the time. Do you think he would have been able to get like a role like that? You know what I'm saying? He had to go all in. And so when you're all in, you increase your magnetism because you're devoted. And people who are devoted are just naturally more magnetic. That's why, like, everyone that we can look back in history, like, if you study their lives, they're kind of little psychotic. They're a little, you
I
know?
can attest to that.
It's it's great, it's great, it's great. But what made them a little psychotic is that they were so committed to what they were doing. Like, think of, like, a Picasso, like, if Picasso wasn't spending hours painting, we wouldn't be talking about Picasso today.
Yeah.
And so, that's the beautiful thing about being on the queen path. It is you do have to go through the phases of discovery, decision, and devotion. And if you need to take some more time to discover, like, who you are, take that time. Discover what you feel like when you're doing that thing. You're like in oneness with it. You feel like you're locked in and it's just like God is like flowing through you. If you can find that in the realm of discovery, make a decision and make a decision fast and get into the realm of devotion. And know that the realm of devotion, it's a scary place to be. Just like decision is a scary place to be. Devotion's a scarier place to be. But the beautiful thing about being a queen and stepping into the queen path is that, guess what, babes? You're not meant to do it alone. Every
Mhm.
queen in history, every queen has counsel. There is not a single queen who does not have her appointed council of people who are around her. And I think that's where we need to be moving as women. We need to stop believing the lie that we're here to do it by ourselves. It's the biggest lie. The biggest lie.
I agree. And I'm now realizing that, like, my
Yeah.
moments where I had the most success, whether it was like I had my finances in order and my health at the same time and my career was good, or like basically all the ducks were aligned, was when I had like support in my life. And maybe at the time it wasn't paid support in the sense of like a VA or whatever it was, an audio editor for my podcast. But it was like, a really loving and supportive boyfriend or a good group of girlfriends or a really good relationship with my mom or something. Just anything to help kind of make things happen, basically, and support me in figuring out who
100%.
I am and what I'm doing.
100%. So just imagine like this, like the queens who are listening to this, or the princesses who are listening to this. No judgment wherever you're at. Just imagine like when you're in discovery, you're going to be around a lot of people because you're going to be influenced by your environment. When you get into the realm of decision, it's going to be you and God. You're going to be by yourself. You know what I mean? And that is a very important time period, which is why a lot of us are afraid of getting into the realm of decision because we have to depend on us making the
Yep.
decisions. But then when you move into devotion, you're back again around a lot of people. Like when you're in devotion of something, you're going to attract other devoted people to be on the path with you. And so if you feel like you're in a season where you have to make decisions and it feels scary, you're like, I'm by myself, no one understands. Kind of consider this to be like the required ritual or the required rites of passage in order for you to like claim your throne, get your crown, and like roll over whatever you want to roll over.
Yeah. I definitely, I can see it broken up by years of each of those stages for me, but it's for sure. Like, now I'm wondering, can you regress? Like, can you go back into princess programming and then having to go through the same sort of like
Thousand
rediscovery again?
percent.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if like, okay, we checked the box, like we are fully here and embodied. Like, I had to ask.
No, not at all. Like there's gonna be seasons in your life where you have to go back into rediscovery. Like it's a path for a reason. Like sometimes you can be on a path of something, you saw some really cool trees, and then you have to go back to where you started. You know what I mean? Even if you
Calling
get
out all corporate girlies there who are just
yeah. Right, right. So there's definitely seasons where you're gonna have to go back to discovery. There's definitely gonna be seasons where you're gonna have to go back to, reflecting on past decisions. But that's the lifelong journey. You're gonna notice throughout your life there's gonna be a season of discovery, a season of decision, and a season of devotion. Your goal is just not to get stuck in discovery. That's not the place you wanna be stuck at. If you wanna be stuck somewhere, be stuck in devotion. But you don't wanna get and discover is a great place to visit. I call these three pillars like realms, right? Like discovery is a great realm to visit. You're studying yourself, the world, you're inquiring, you're exploring, you're taking quizzes like the Queen Path quiz at www.thequeenpathquiz.com. You're taking quizzes, you're doing the things, right? But eventually, you know that in order to get the things that are on your Pinterest board, in order to get the things that you're like daydreaming about, of trying to manifest, there's some uncomfortable decisions you have to make.
Oh, yeah,
And I
for sure.
and they're not gonna be comfortable, y'all. Like, that's what I want you guys to know. Every woman who you deeply admire online or offline, your favorite celebrity or whatever it may be, they had a season where they had to make super uncomfortable, difficult decisions. Super uncomfortable, difficult decisions.
Yeah. I love that you
Yeah,
mentioned the Pinterest board thing because I'm a Pinterest board obsessed person, but it is
me
cool because
too.
I think a recent podcast episode of yours, you were talking about how like at one point you were obsessed with the Pinterest boards. And then you like had this like out of body experience of like, oh wait, all the things I was pinning like for the past decade are in my life now, like down to like the pair of
Yeah,
shoes. Like I've had that too, where I'm like, I didn't even realize I wanted a pair of cheetah like leopard print heels, and now I was that in
100%.
corporate. Then I was wearing them, and now I'm like death to the heels. Like I don't, I wear like jeans and like t-shirts now. I'm so not into stuff like that. Or they have to be like not stripper heels, but like really aggressive block heels for when I have like events
Mhm.
and public appearances. But like it's so funny how like not necessarily manifestation, but just visualization period can really
Oh,
change things.
yeah. That's why the discovery period is important because that's when you're daydreaming and you're
Hmm.
making the vision board. You're discovering the dreams and the visions that are living inside of you, which is very important. But yeah, isn't it funny when you wake up and it's fun. Have you ever had the experience where you kind of woke up in a dream or something that you were visualizing and you're like, oh, this is actually not what I want anymore?
Dude, I it's so funny because I was talking to someone recently about that, and like now in super devoted, decisive state. But for like the past 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, I was in the state where I felt like every other month or even every month,
Yeah.
I would make a decision to go towards a certain path or make a certain decision about my career or like who I was dating or how I dress. And like then I change again. And I was like, am I stupid? Like what I don't understand what's going on. And it was perfectly for my path. I had to discover all these different facets. It just took a really long time and
And that
like so much
and
decision
that's
making to,
And that's the path of especially the queen of streams for sure, for this archetype in particular. Like even study like Kim Kardashian. Again, y'all, like whatever you feel about Kim K, but she is the queen of streams. Paris Hilton is like the OG queen of streams, so but studying Kim's career, she started off like the tape, but even after that, she was like trying all these different brand deals. She was trying
yeah.
this. She was
Well,
she was
Joanna
like the
Gaines is a great example of that. She's a bit
example
more, I
a
would say, like down
hundred
to earth,
percent.
like it's
Yes,
like she does
yes.
everything now. I think she has a line at
Yeah,
Target. Like and what did she start at? Like doing home
1,000%.
renos with her husband? Like, I don't know.
1,000%. So if you have the Queen of Streams archetype, especially have this archetype, you're definitely gonna have phases where you're like, "I wanna do it all," right? But the key thing for our archetype in particular is that, yes, you can do a bunch of different things, but there's something that you're here to master. Joanna Gaines mastered aesthetics. Like, she, like,
Hmm.
mastered aesthetics. Even Athena Caldron, who's another Queen of Streams, another architecture, interior design kinda girly, like, there's something that you're here to master. Kim Kardashian, she mastered content creation. Like, she's mastered that, which is what has given her the freedom to flow in all the different directions that she's mastered. She mastered influence. And so, if you are in a season in your life where you feel like, oh, I want to decide this and I want to decide that, like, figure out what in the realm of devotion that you're here to master. Because from that place, you're going to be able to create the multiple streams of income or,
Hmm.
pursue the pursuit of multiple things because there's like a connecting source that connects all of those things together. If you don't have that connected source of what kind of pours into all of these different aspects of yourself, you're just going to be in chaos,
Yeah.
honestly.
which I was there. At times I'm like,
Yeah.
"What are we doing, girl? Like, get it together."
Oh,
But I
100%.
mean, it's
Yeah.
so in your programs, do you get to that essentially? So people are like, "Hey, I want to figure out what my like running theme is or something," or like I know people
Yeah.
can find out through the quiz what their archetype is and start working within that constraint, like that
Yeah.
construct. But
Yeah.
like, is there anything else that people can do to kind of get to that
100%.
place?
100%. So everyone who takes the quiz, we've done master classes for each archetype. There's also an associated ebook. But in each master class, like the Queen of Streams, we haven't done the Corporate Queen yet, People's Queen and the Queen of Sanctuaries. I'm walking you through what discovery, decision, and devotion looks like for your particular archetype, and I also
Hmm.
walk through that in the ebook. And so, yeah, definitely for the master class, I walk everyone through that. And actually, like what I'm doing now, like even as of this day, I'm gonna throw in the Queen Path course into all the different master classes. So people can be like, okay, I know the general view of what it means to be like the Queen Path, but I also need to know what specifically works for me. And so, yeah, you're definitely gonna have those resources on the Queen Path for sure.
Okay, cool. Just had to ask because also
Yeah.
like like I had said to you, I'm just now entering into my devotion phase, and I feel gut feeling I'm going to be in it for quite a while, which I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
No chaos for a little bit, please. So, but it's cool because the
Yes.
magnetism is coming back. But of course, I'm like, how do I remain in my power as things shift and change and my world changes? Like the world changes, right? The world is chaotic. So, knowing that those are
Even
available, like, is
Even
great.
for every single queen archetype, because yes, it looks different for all of us, you have to like what I was saying earlier, you have to remember that every queen needs counsel. No matter what your archetype is, the only place that you might feel a little bit isolated is when you're in the decision realm,
Hmm.
right? The discovery realm, you'll definitely be around a lot of people. This decision realm, you're going to be a little isolated. But to stay in the realm of devotion, you do need to be around other people who are going to hold you accountable of being there as well. And so for me as a queen of streams, like I'm also like a super artsy fartsy kind of person. Like I tend to self-isolate and be by myself.
Say,
It's what I'm drawn to because I like to be in my internal world and create and all of that stuff. And there's a season for that, but it's so important that you have a group of people. This could look like coaches, therapists, 2 to 3 friends who just are in a very similar world and know what it is that you're doing and they understand you and they know your goals, right? You need to surround yourself with people who know your goals. Because if not, like, if only you know your goals and you're not really, there's no accountability. There's
yeah,
no accountability. There's not going to be also that support that you need to keep you in the realm of devotion. And
yep.
so,
Which
my
happened to me.
counsel,
I've
yeah,
been like,
yeah,
when I first started all of this, I blew up
yeah.
in 2021 and to 2021, and I didn't have the support system I needed to keep me there. And I didn't lose it, but like, I ended up having to go back to the beginning of discovery and then work through, all those different phases. And then now I'm back in devotion and can do like a second round of like with the right foundation and people in
Of
place.
100%. And each time you go through that process, my love, is like, going back to discovery, what's happening is actually like, you're getting wiser. Like
Hmm.
you're gaining more wisdom. You're actually
It's
getting
just for the
richer
plot.
without you.
It's for the
It's
plot.
all
It's for the future book that I'm writing. Like
I
that's all I
found
need. The fodder I
a
need to make it feel
hun
like
a
okay.
100%. 100%. Like each time you go through that phase, like you're just getting wealthier. You don't even realize like that's what you're actually doing. If you do feel like you have to go back because wisdom and experience are some of the most valuable things in our world. So every time you go, you feel like you have to start over, collect the gems. Collect the gems. They're all meant to be part of your crown. And when you're back in that realm of devotion, you're gonna have so many gems in your crown that people are literally like, take my money. Take
Hmm.
my money. You've learned some things I need to learn?
Yeah. I'm still looking at it as like a Girl Scout sash with all my like, kind of like my little magnet on it.
I love it.
Eventually I'll get to the queen, the crown with the jewels, but
Oh yeah. Because even it's metaphorical. It's kind of like gems, like gems in your mind, like
yep,
gemstones.
yep,
Like, wow, these are valuable gems. When I talk about the crown, I'm talking about your mind,
yep.
So,
Yeah. I
but
love
I
how you
think,
have like all those layerings of like God and spirit and like everything within your branding and stuff, which is so
oh
beautifully
yeah.
done. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like God is the one who gave me the vision for the archetypes because I like literally remember I'm in Philly right now, actually, and I came out here to kind of like channel the archetypes because Philly's a very creative city. And I just remember just like going into like the state of consciousness of just kind of being like here, but not here. and just like birthing it out and just like getting like the level of detail, I'm still like trying to figure out how much detail I want to go into about the archetypes and keeping it general for now. But I think my life's work is to understand the archetypes at the deepest level because
Hmm.
there's something very spiritual about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more that you can
Yeah,
help people understand themselves, obviously the easier that they can then move into their power. And when
a
people are
thousand
empowered,
percent.
they make better
Let's go.
decisions and the world is a
Let's
better
go.
place. So, you know.
1,000%. It's like helping people break free from confusion.
Hmm.
I just like you know the feeling of being confused, right? It's just
It's the
like
worst. It's just,
it's
it
just
feels so
like
terrible, honestly.
it's like one of my least favorite feelings on the planet,
Yeah.
confusion, which is why I've always hated math. Like I used to like math was like a personal attack against me. I was like, don't make me feel like this. But because that feeling was so deep for me, I didn't want other people to feel that. And I was noticing that we lived in a time period where people were just like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And that's like that's not a place I would want my fellow sisters, my fellow queens to be in. So that's the reason why I made the queen path.
Yeah. Well, the timing is
Yeah.
perfect because right now, we all desperately need a little bit of that power within ourselves. Whether you're embodying a physical, a masculine body or a feminine body, like we all need
Yeah.
that.
100%.
Well, this has
Yeah.
been phenomenal. Oh my God. I'm so excited to share this with the audience. As we wrap this up, one thing I always do is ask like one final question to tie a bow around it nice and pretty is if you could give advice
Yes.
to your younger self, whether that was Sola a year ago or young baby Sola, like what would that be?
Well, first and foremost, Gabby, that's such like a phenomenal question. Like, truly, thank you. The advice I would give to my younger self is your power is in your perspective. And if you really understood that you have the freedom to perceive how you want to perceive, you're going to feel a lot more free. So change your perspective. Don't try to like change all these 10,000 different things in your life. Change your perspective because your perspective is going to influence how you think, and that's going to influence how you feel, and then that's going to influence what you do. So let's just focus on perception. That's what
Yeah.
I would tell my younger self.
Beautifully put, dude. Like that, you definitely channeled something right there. Because that was so eloquently put. Yeah.
100%.
That was like TED Talk done for the day. Where's the bush? We're good.
I think down the line, the next phase of what I'm moving into in my life is definitely books. I'm gonna make a book on each archetype. Feels like I feel like each archetype deserves a whole book because there's so much.
Yeah.
But there's just so many books inside of me, so the words are they're always
They're
there.
coming. Yeah. It's just a matter of when the paper will find
Decision
you.
and devotion. Yeah, I'm in discovery with that. That's where I'm
Yeah.
in discovery, and
Yeah.
then eventually I have to make a decision.
Yeah. So fun. Like, I'm about 30,000 words into my manuscript and it's like a labor of love. But yeah. Yeah.
Let's go, queen. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, let's see how, like how the timeline of everything works out. But I have a feeling when the book finishes, will be the time when some publisher's like, hey, do you have a book? And I'm like, actually, yes, I do. It's like, oh, like, so I'm just waiting for that moment. But
Oh yeah,
it's gonna
100%.
happen. Yeah.
100%. I pray that it happens for you, my love,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
ditto to
commend you
you.
for that.
You can make
Yeah,
probably a whole
thank
like
you.
TV show or something or limited series on the different archetypes, honestly.
Oh
The whole
yeah,
thing.
that's the long-term vision. The Queen Path is definitely like it's my lifelong there's so many aspects of it, but the goal is like multimedia. So we
Yeah.
definitely want to do I feel like we could even develop the archetypes into like, animated characters and stuff
okay.
like
I was thinking the same. When you were talking about queen archetypes, though it's not related at all. I thought of the series, the Akatar series.
Oh yeah, that's
Akatar,
what it
like,
is.
what is it? A Court of
Yeah.
Roses, Thorns and Roses, which is a phenomenal series, and like that it has to do like
Yes.
fairies and stuff. It's still within the same realm of like there's I don't know. We love whimsical stuff. We love fairies and like
I'm
that whole
here
sort of
for it.
yeah. So anyway, like not that you would have that exact sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know.
I like it would probably be it would be a combination of that little Game of Thronesy. But
I see
yeah,
that for sure.
the long-term vision of what we're doing is like not even what I'm doing is like I'm creating a world, a
Yeah.
whole world.
That's
you
exactly
know?
what I see too. That's why I'm like, is this gonna be the next version of the like the what is it the Harry Potter series? Like something has to come of it. I don't know.
I'm
I don't
here
know.
for it. Yeah, it's all for the plot.
Yeah, all for the plot. We got to do it for that. But Thank you so much for coming on. This was so great, so insightful. I know my
Oh,
audience
thanks
is
so
going to
much.
gain so much from it. For those listening, all of Sola's information will be in the show notes. So, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabby.